I used to be a very frantic photographer. I'd run around chasing the light and take several quick images in the fear of missing out. Now, my photographic process is much slower, more contemplative and considered in nature. I find this slower process brings with it more connection to the world around me and a deeper sense of well-being that I never quite felt when filled with adrenaline. Don't get me wrong, there's no right or wrong way to approach photography, but for me personally, I much prefer the slower, more considered way. Over the past few weeks, as work became busy and life threw some challenges my way, I found myself reconnecting with the frantic photographer. I found it quite overwhelming as I battled to juggle the demands of life. It opened my eyes to the point that I decided to step back and take a week's break from YouTube. This realisation all happened on an early morning trip to the beach, and in this video, I'm going to share that poignant morning with you. So here I was, at my local beach at sunrise. The colour around me was absolutely phenomenal. In this clip, I may look relaxed, but inside told a very different story. I knew this light wouldn't hang around, and I wanted to capture it. As soon as I'd walked down the beach for this clip, I ran back to my camera and fired off some quick shots. These images are nice, and are ones I would have been delighted with if I'd taken in the past, but looking at them, I feel very little. Despite the beautiful colours and light, personally, I feel they lack soul. With this frantic energy still within me, I ran to another spot. The sky was pink and purple, and the moon was still visible. Once again, I quickly fired off some shots. This frantic run continued until I got back to the beach and thought, stop! Why are you rushing around? What is the point in adding to life's stresses by bringing it into my creative work? I sat down and took some deep breaths, and this is where the contemplation began. Well, this isn't the first time that I've been out this week in an attempt to create some images. I was out a couple of days ago in the woodlands and I was in search of some autumn colours, and initially I couldn't find any. And then as I got to the river, there was quite a lot of beautiful colour surrounding me and fantastic photographic opportunities, but I just found myself in this state of feeling like I was almost like desperately searching for an image. And because I was desperately searching for an image, I wasn't able to calm down enough to get into a state where I could really create. One thing I hear a lot is that our external reality is a reflection of our internal world. And this week I've been feeling very frantic. I've got a lot on this month. October is always my busiest month of the year. A lot of stuff going on in the background with various projects and various workshops and various jobs, and having recently come back from holiday as well, it's like that rush when you get back of having to catch up and having a lot to do. And inside I've been feeling this frantic energy, and I've just realised right now when I arrived on location this morning that I'm running around trying to get into the best spot, trying to just find something to photograph, even though there is so much beauty around me. And this morning's reminded me so much of what I used to be like when I began photography, this frantic, anxious girl that was just really struggling to calm down and just to immerse myself in the beauty. Like I said, it's been a real stark reminder this morning, and just now as I've started to settle down, take a few deep breaths, just ground myself and really tune in to the landscape, the beautiful fiery colours that we had 10, 15 minutes ago have now gone, but they've been replaced by beautiful, wispy clouds. And I'm starting to see so many images now. This slowing down, it's I feel a really important process when it comes to anything creative. It's very difficult to create when you're in that frantic state. So now that I've calmed down a bit and I'm a little bit more relaxed and peaceful, let's see what images I can create now. Because I feel so much more connected to the beauty around me, even though the majority of us would chase that gorgeous orange and red glow that we had. Now I'm ready to create.
And ready to create I was. I now felt so much more connected with the world around me and able to see opportunities everywhere. I began by photographing some of the cloud formations. They were so beautiful, and doing this was inspired by this month's photography challenge, The World Above Our Heads, that I've set for my online community members. Some were done as single images, and a couple of others as multiple exposures, by combining 2 images in camera. I then looked back at the beach huts where the morning had began and created images of them nestled below the beautiful clouds. I feel so much more when I look at these images compared to the earlier ones. I felt so much when creating them, placing an energetic imprint within each image. I'd be interested to hear how you feel when you look at these images side by side. Can you feel fear and anxiety in image 1 and more of a peaceful and calming feel when you look at image 2? Of course, the colours play a part in the emotion of the images, but with our external reality being a reflection of what's going on within, I feel this is a great depiction to show what I was drawn to as my moods and temperament changed. If you're on a similar path to this and are beginning to practice a more contemplative approach to your photography, you may find you're using less gear than you used to, or are interested in changing your camera to suit this slower approach. This is where today's sponsor, MPB, may be of interest to you. MPB is an online platform where you can buy, sell and trade in used camera gear. Having used their platform myself to sell gear in the past, I can say that it is very easy to use. You simply type in the gear you wish to sell, generating an instant quote. Once the quote is approved, you can pick a date for your gear to be collected from your home, and once received and checked by MPB, payment is issued. This is a great way to pass on gear you no longer use, or trade it in for some that you will, adding more enjoyment to your personal photographic needs. If you feel this is something that may be of benefit to you, you can find the link to MPB in the description box below.
When you begin to slow down, you really begin to notice things. Just now I'm just finding so much interest in these lone herring gulls flying over the sea. And I'm creating multiple exposure images of them soaring. It's just creating a really nice feel. Following one bird across the horizon and creating images of it as it does so. It's connecting with one single part of a huge, vast scene. It's beautiful. You know, in the modern day world, so many of us spend the vast majority of our lives in fight or flight modes, myself included. In fact, growing up, I was always in a state of anxiety. And although I find myself being much more calmer now and less anxious in life, I still have weeks and moments where I really feel it. And this week has really hit home to me when it comes to the world of photography. It's like, I do photography to connect with nature, to slow down, to unwind, to express myself creatively, release the emotions through the camera, and just feel so at peace and at one with the natural world, and to de-stress, to lower that level of anxiety. So if I come out like I did this morning and like I did earlier in the week, just frantically looking for images and chasing that light, it adds to that sense of anxiety. You know, my cortisol levels rise and I feel it. It's like it's not a very pleasant state to be in. And then it's very difficult to connect and it's very difficult to create. I mean, this has been a stark reminder for me this morning that even if I get out and I see the most beautiful fiery sky like I did this morning, I need to just enjoy the moment. And if I miss the beautiful colour, I miss the beautiful colour, because after that colour comes more beauty. Different colours, different tones, different hues, different shapes, different patterns, but still more beauty. There's beauty in every single moment of the day. And even just getting up this morning and viewing that gorgeous fiery sky, and I know I created a couple of images of it, so you know, I did connect with it. But those images were very rushed and they were very much created from a place of adrenaline. They weren't even creative, they were more like snapshots, just running around, pressing the shutter without much intentional thought behind the images. However, the images you've just seen of the birds flying over the sea, they were very intentional. I felt very connected, and as a result, they turned out to be very creative. Now, of course, creative photography isn't for everybody, but one message I'd love to leave this video on today is just, if you use photography as a method of relaxation, try your best to really embody that. It can be exciting running around trying to chase that light for some people, and it used to be for me, very much. I used to love it. Running down to the beach at sunset, getting up early for sunrise and just chasing that light, trying to get that epic landscape shot. But now, for me, it's much more about creation, and it's much more about that emotional feeling and that emotional connection, which I think has always been there for me, but it's just becoming so much more of a clear and intentional practice, and something that I love to speak about, because we live in a world, like I say, where there is so much anxiety, so much fear. And if we can find a method, and for most of you watching this video, you love photography, if you can find a method of allowing yourself to calm down just a little bit and connect with nature on a much deeper level, then sharing this message and sharing my process this week, I hope will give you something to think about, something to contemplate. And it may give you something to try next time you head out with your camera. Something that could give you so much more reward than simply the experience of being out and the images you create. It may also do something for your physiology as well. It's just a thought. It's just a thought.
Sticking with the more relaxed approach, the sun was now peeking through the clouds, and as it did so, I went down onto the ground and created some images of the orange glow coming through the grasses. Upon reflection, I found these images to be a good depiction of the internal battle I'd felt on this morning, between the frantic energy and the calmer moments, combining fiery orange light with the subtle green tones. You may have noticed when explaining my change in approach that my language also changed, from shooting and capturing the fiery sky to creating and connecting with the clouds and birds. Every word we use has energy. How we use language when explaining our photographic process can have a big impact on how we feel, both in the moment and when sharing our images. And on this note, there was one last poignant thought that came to me during this morning's venture.
We cannot create from a state of fear. We cannot create from a state of fear. And I really feel frantically running around in a state of anxiety and adrenaline. It can be excitement, it totally can be excitement. And if it is excitement, fantastic. But if it's this desire for something, this chasing of something, it comes from this fear of missing out, this fear of missing the image. We all have our own photographic processes, but that's something that's really come to me this morning. We cannot create in a state of fear. We cannot create from a state of fear.